Before you and I part company tonight, some unfinished business concerning recent political history. You may recall that Senator Marco Rubio's name was mentioned back in 2012 as a possible vice presidential selection for Mitt Romney, but concerns about the Florida senator derailed that decision. Presidential strategist and Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris wrote a couple of columns during that campaign year of 2012 on that very topic. And he picks up the story from there.
I got a phone call in 2012 from a guy whose name you would know, who was very highly up with the Romney campaign. And he said, I've noticed that in a lot of your articles lately, you've been pushing Rubio for vice president. And the governor, meaning Romney, wishes you wouldn't do that, because he's worried that if there's a big hype for Rubio and then he doesn't choose Rubio, there could be a big letdown in the Latino community. And I said, well, why wouldn't he choose Rubio? He'd be perfect for that. And he said, you look it up. You check out his state party credit card, check out the financial issues in Florida, and you'll see why we don't want to do that. And then I did, and I wrote a column about it. And Rubio's people pushed back, and I wrote a column where I said, where there's smoke, there's not always fire, because it wasn't clear that Rubio had done something wrong. But clearly, he was under investigation for it. And that's why the Romney people called me.
And you see, when you're up for the number 2 spot, somebody else ends up making the decision. When you're running for the top spot, you can make a decision on your own, but ultimately, it's up to the people. Speaking of the people, now it's time for the way you see it. Your comments via social media. First, we hear from Gene, who enjoyed our interview with Texas Congressman Brian Babin last night. Brian was here talking about the GOP pushing back against that huge, outlandish budget proposal from President Obama. Here's what Gene had to say. Our congressman makes us proud. He is fighting our fight more in Congress than most. Thank you, Congressman Babin. As a recovering member of Congress, I can tell you, you always like to hear from your constituents. Next, Mark writes in about our segment last night detailing the longtime political business relationship between Marco Rubio and Fox regular Frank Luntz. He writes, just watched you and Dick Morris spill the beans on Frank Luntz. Unbelievable to think that Fox News is so biased. My wife and I saw Frank's focus group after the New Hampshire debate and were amazed at how obvious the bias was. As soon as the group raised their hands that they had switched to Rubio, we knew something was up. This is the last time I will ever trust what he does. And Dana likewise writes in about Fox News pushing so hard for Rubio. Her comments include these. Fox coverage of New Hampshire included multiple Rubio commercials saying Rubio is the only candidate Hillary fears. How stupid are they? That showed me Fox is biased in favor of Rubio. No news organization should show candidate commercials during election results, in my opinion, unless they show one for every candidate. Next up, it's James, who writes in and says, it's no surprise that Fox is pushing for Rubio any more than NBC or CBS are pushing for Clinton. The only way to get the truth these days is to do your own due diligence and gather your facts from multiple sources. Unfortunately, any story you hear from the mainstream media is someone else's agenda. And finally, we hear from Angela, who's recently turned to us at Newsmax TV, made us her source for political news. She writes, after I saw what Fox News was doing to Mr. Trump, I quit watching them. I love all you on Newsmax. I've always been a big fan of JD. You are truly fair and balanced. Keep up the good work. Well, Angela, I've become a big fan of yours. Thank you for the kind comment. And now we'd like to get your comments. If you have some for us, here's where you send them. Send them to me at newsmaxtv.com/comments. That'll do it for tonight. Until tomorrow night, stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.